Hello everybody, my name is Mark and this is Mark's Coding Projects. I thought I'd take the start of this video to talk a little bit about myself. So this is the plan for this channel is going to be a collection of all of my software development projects, which I'm going to be using to build a portfolio. And the reason for having this portfolio is because I want to become, hopefully, fingers crossed, I want to become a software developer one day. And one of the key things that people talk about is having some kind of portfolio of all of your work to demonstrate that you're a competent programmer. So I thought I'll make it more interesting and I'll document the process. So if you are like me and you're looking for any ideas, then feel free to give these a crack yourself. Or if you're just wanting to learn to code in general, then hopefully these videos will be for you. Anyway, advertising over. So, in the last video, we made some alterations to our write connection method. You notice we changed the return type to a string, and we returned some values. So we returned the IP of our opponents, and that was based off of the contents of this connections.txt file. So you remember we have the connections list and we have the connections text file. The connections list is going to be used to store connections while the server is running. The connections text file is going to be used to store connections in the event that the server goes down. So if the server crashes, all the connections should already be written here. Therefore, any games can be retained should the server go down. So I've made a bit of a plan for today's video. I think what I want to do is I want to take the data that we have returned in our write connections, so our opponent IP in this case, or not found here, and we're going to do stuff with it. What we're going to do is we're going to use it to determine whether or not connections are saved to our connection container list. Is that what we're going to do? That's actually a really good question. No, that's not what we're going to do, is it? Interesting. Okay, no, I know what we're going to do. So initially, what in my head I had it down that if we found our IP in our connection text file, then we wouldn't need to add the connection to the save connections list, to the connection container list. Sorry, but I don't think that's true. So say in the event that the connections text file has saved all of the server connections and the server's gone down, the server then gets booted up, that connection container list, connection container list is... Why? I always get this Java notification about updates and it always triggers like way after I've booted the laptop. So everything usually comes through, ping, 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 like, okay, ignore it and then start recording. And then this Java notification is just like, oh, I'll just pop up whenever. Oh, it's so annoying. Anyway, so I've totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, I spelled Boolean wrong. There we go. No Boolean. No. Oh my god. That one. Fantastic. So yeah, quick thing. It works if you put a capital B, but don't put a lowercase b because you want it to be orange text. Don't quite know what the white text actually is. So stick with orange. Anyway, so connections has saved all the connections. The server has gone down. We've restarted the server. Save connection is going to be triggered every time a client reconnects to the server. Write connections has already determined whether or not the connection needs to be saved to the text file. However, the text file then needs to be used as a filter to configure the list correctly, as opposed to determine what goes in, what doesn't go into the list. So presumably, if the server's gone down, every new connection will need to go into the list. However, it'll need to go in a certain order based on if I don't know, say so you join up, and you've got a game with an opponent. You know, do you want to carry on that game with your opponent? Well, first of all, you've got to determine whether or not your opponent's online. Then you've got to ask the player, do you want to carry on this game? And then, you know, a whole lot of hassle that's going to come with this, to be honest with you. I'm not quite sure how we want to set it up. So. First things off, I've realised there's another problem with this, in that if you have, say you're in a pre-existing game and it finds your IP in the connection text list, and it finds your opponents and you join, your opponent hasn't tried to join yet. What should the program do with you? Should it wait? Should it wait until your opponent joins and ask your opponent, do you want to carry on the game? You know, should it just allow you to start a new game? I don't know. I think what I want to do, what I'm going to say is, this is just going to be the rule. The rule is, you're going to join, and if it finds your opponent is online, then it will offer to carry on your match. If not, then I think you should be able to play as normal. That's what I'm going to say. That's the stance I'm going to take. So, in order to do that, first and foremost, we need to use the value in our right connections to determine whether or not where your opponent, or who your opponent is, sorry, which is going to be difficult. So first off, since right connections has a return type, I'm just going to pass it as a parameter to save connections. So you can pass a method call to another method's parameter list, that's allowed, but provided it's got a return type. So this basically, from a data perspective, it acts as a string, since it returns string value. So it will be the string that is the actual parameter of this. But you're allowed to put all of the extra code that's going to be used to generate that string as well in as a parameter. It's quite nice. Opponent. Cool. See, no unhappiness there. They work perfectly. So, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So. How do we do this? So the structure of this method at the moment is we loop through the list and we determine which connections aren't connected. So which clients are waiting to be matched with an opponent. So that's the current way of doing it. We want to ignore this. So I think probably the easiest way, not necessarily the most efficient, but I think the easiest way is if we do 2 loops. Oh, I hate it. It sounds so ugly already. Oh, I don't want to do it this way. Oh, I think I'm probably going to have to do it this way, to be fair. Okay, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. So the reason I don't want to do it this way is because my method at the moment is going to involve looping through the array twice. And that's not something I feel is necessary, but I can't think at the moment of another way of doing it. If you can find a more efficient way of doing it, then, you know, by all means, give it a try. But at the moment, this is what I've come up with. So first of all, we're going to take the loop and we are going to determine Did we set up a get IP method? Did we? I can't remember. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to look at our list object, our list connection container object, right, in our list, and we're going to want to see what its IP is. Have we got to get IP? I could make one. I think I'll make one. Public get IP. Yeah, there you go. That should show up. So the point of this is we just need to create a little method which is just gonna generate a string containing all of the relevant IP and port information. Kind of address plus plus s.get port. Boom. Nice, simple. Okay. So now that I've written it, I'll explain it. So we're going to use our getter for our socket method for our socket. So we're going to get the socket. We're going to create a new variable. We're going to pull the IP and we're going to pull the port number. We've formatted it in the same way that it's formatted within the text file. And then we're going to return it. So we're going to return it as a string. Oh, why? I've clicked on the wrong class. There we go. Yeah, so the return type's a string. We're going to return this value. When we then go back into our if statement, if we do .get IP, this is a string. Why are you getting upset? Yeah, so it says, if you can see that, it says found java.lang.string. So that's working correctly. Now what we need to do is we need to use our equals opponent. I've spelt it wrong. There we go. Boom. This doesn't have return type, so I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. The flow of the program's not great at the minute, but we're gonna fix it. So if our S connection, so we're gonna loop through, we're gonna match our opponent string, i.e. their IP from the connection text file, to their IP in the connection container list. If we find a match, then first of all we're going to ask print. Oh no, I spelled it wrong. Line. You have a match with. You have a saved game with plus opponent, which by the way is just going to be an IP, so not particularly useful, but we'll work on it. Would you like to continue? I figured it. Don't worry, I figured it. I know what we're gonna do. We're then gonna make a click something. Shouldn't have clicked it. Okay. We're now gonna make a scanner object. I think I discussed this in video 2. If you want to go check that out, that'd be greatly appreciated. So all we're going to use this for is we are going to get a response. So would you like to continue y/n? So put yes or no. There is a method for. Oh, sorry, hang on. Let me take this one step at a time. System.in. there is a way to ignore case in the scanner. So if someone puts a lowercase, it won't break. Let me just do a little Google. I typed in ignore and it just stopped on ignore. It didn't go any further. So I've just found out what the word ignore means. So really useful stuff. Ignore case in Java. There we go. Oh, nice. Okay, so it's not the scanner that does it. It's the it's done in the if statement. So what I mean by that is reproduce scanner.next line. Here we go, and then we need this statement here. String answer, so answer equals yes. So if answer dot equals ignore case, yes. Then what do we want to do? We want to I've just realised this could be a problem, because what's going to happen is it's going to kick you. It's going to kick your opponent off the game. So we'll allow that for now, but we'll make an alteration. We'll do a part 2, and we'll fix this, because I think that's probably going to be quite annoying if you're midway through a game. Someone says, "Right, I'm playing with you," and then just boots you out of the game. That's probably going to annoy people. So if the answer is yes, then what the heck do we do? Why are you getting upset? Fine. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So I was just basically what was going on was I was having a little think about how we could move this x variable down into this value, down to here. So we want to move. So if we find a match, then this x value is going to correspond to an x value in this for loop, and therefore we can use it to execute all of this code. I've seen a few problems with that. First of all, I'm not sure how we're going to transfer the x value. Second of all, I feel like this code doesn't work properly, because I think it's going to loop through the list, the connections container list, and every time it finds that something's not connected, it's going to match them, and that's going to be a problem, because I think, say you're a client, you've just joined, and there's like 3 open connections, then you'll get matched with the first one, and then you'll be connected. But then I think it might also match you with the second and the third, and it'll edit their values and potentially your values as well, based on these matches. So I added the flag, the not connected. So when we do the first match, we set not connected equal to false, and after that, we will block this process from happening again. Again, I really feel like there's a better way of doing it, but I cannot see it at the moment. So I'm just going to plow on. So we're just trying to figure out what we're going to do if our person says no, and something's clicked. Something has literally just clicked in my brain, which I'm very happy about. So if it matches, it's going to say it's annoying 'cause you can't go about matching them with an opponent before you've checked the entire list but once first to determine whether or not they actually want to uh, play with their existing opponent they've got in the connections text file. So it may just have to be that we loop it twice. That is very upsetting. Although I have thought of a nice little trick. Something, yeah, this sounds like a nice little plan to me. So we're going to make a private Boolean. Ooh. Boolean method, and we're going to call it update connection. Honestly, it's ridiculous. Oh no, stop it. There we go. Sick. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to be kind of cheeky. And I'm going to put all of this code here into our update connection method. Please don't get it. I know you're going to get upset, but it's all right. Okay, we can do this. So first of all, we're going to return not connected. That's the first point. So we're not going to get a error message anymore for not having a return type. The variable doesn't exist, but that's something else. If we then do update connection, cool. I know you're getting angry. So we want to pass it a socket. Where has counter come from? Is counter hard coded? Counter is set player. Yeah, we can give it a counter. Fine. So I'm just trying to work out what code I want to put into update connection and what code I want to leave in our save connection. I think I will move this. Yeah, okay, so that's one less error. X. Yeah, we'll need to make X as a parameter. So X refers to the value in the for loop. So that refers to this here, so we can pass that as a parameter. If we find a match, that's no problem. You're now upset. Why are you upset? I'll put you in there. I'll move you as well. So it might not make a lot of sense now why I'm doing all of this, but it will in a momento. And then we need the list. We'll move the list. Why not? List connection container S connections. Boom. Okay. Why are you unhappy? Okay, I'll just make another Boolean. Stuff it. If we can put the return type, data type. Cool. Not connected. Press the wrong key. Okay. Cool. Wow. Why? Why is it always false? Is that a problem? And oh, well, actually, in that case, should we just return false then? That would make sense if we just return false. Because if this method's triggered. Okay, so there's a bunch that I need to talk you through. Last but not least, I'm just going to add the parameters and then we will discuss. X, and then S connections. Bang. Stop with the error. Fine, I'll make it static. Jesus. Okay. Happy now? No? Yes, you are. Cool. And what on earth does SC stand for? I don't actually know. SC is an object. Do you know what? Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah, stuff it. Move it all. Okay, so this could come with some teething problems. However, I'll talk you through my logic. So, if our if our client, sorry, says that they want to play a match with their opponent, we're going to want to trigger all of the code in here. Okay, and like I said, in order to do that, we need to transfer the X value for this for loop. We can't do that in here because we can't move this value to this for loop. Or at least I don't know of a way how. I think if we did, it would disrupt the logic. So my thinking was, oh well, we could set this to a different integer value, not this one, and we could update that. But I don't know. I don't think it works. I feel like there's possibly a branching way. So if you could trigger the for loop if a value for X here isn't found, or possibly, I don't know. Basically, everywhere I see it, I feel like we're going to have to not only loop through the code twice, but we're going to end up with duplicates of the same code, which I'm not a huge fan of doing that. So what I've done instead is I've put all of that duplicated code, at least, into one method, and we can call the method twice. Connection S X and S connections. So what's going to happen is the first thing that this method's going to do is it's going to find out whether or not server's gone down. Have you got, or even if the server hasn't gone down and a client disconnects, did they have a game with an existing opponent? And that will be told using our text file. If we find that they did, and that's this statement here, we're going to ask them, do you want to carry on your game with your opponent? If they say yes, then we will update our connections list. What that means is we're going to set up our new connection container objects, put them into our list, and we're going to update our opponent's connection container object as well. So, but this time, instead of doing it based off of the for loop, this X value is going to be this for loop's X value, not this one's. And you'll notice those values will be different because this statement here to get the X value is it connected? This statement here is saying, well, does your opponent exist? So number one in the list might not be connected, but your opponent might actually be at number 6. So the two X values that we find from this statement and this loop and this loop may be completely different. So I think that's probably the best way of doing it. One quick note. We need to update our Boolean because without that, what will happen is we'll update the connection and then it will go onto this for loop. I'm not sure how to get it from not going through the for loop. I mean, we could surround it with hang on, actually, something's starting to click. we could surround it with an if statement of if not connected, or we could possibly put it within this code and split them in some way. Because obviously it would be better if we just ignored looping through the loop again if it's already connected. I know what we could do. We could put an else if. Else if not connected equals false, then we can. Wow, why are you getting upset? Oh, simplification. There we go. Cool. So if not connected equals false, and actually this is quite useful because not only does it mean that we will, if it finds a connection with our opponent from our text file, then we can skip this loop basically on the first run round. Equally, if we decide to connect midway through and we don't need to carry on within this for loop, to say instead of this statement triggered, this statement's triggered, so it connects you with a brand new opponent here. This statement, when on the next loop round, will then see, oh, okay, not connected equals false because we've set it to false. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say x equals sConnections.size, and that should break the for loop. So say this one's triggered, this statement will be found as false because not connected will equal false, not true. This statement will be found as true, x will be set to the size of the connections list, and then on the next go around, this condition won't be met because x will be too big and it will skip it. I like it. I think that works. There's some other stuff. So in the next video, we're going to talk about what we're going to do when your opponent, how we're going to allow the opponent to receive a request for an incoming connection. So, you know, like I said, you might be in the middle of a game and you might not want someone to ruin it for you. So we've got to set that up. And then there's something to do with the connections text file that I think we're going to need to do as well. So we need to remove connections which have been completed at some point, but we're not really at the point yet where games are being finished successfully. So that's something on the back burner, but it's something to bear in mind. So at the moment, if you test this multiple times, and if you're fortunate enough you can test it with multiple IPs, then you'll notice that games that have been completed are probably still saved within a connection text file, and we need to stop that from happening. So that's something else. And then the last thing that I still haven't covered is actually saving the game. So we save the relationship between the two clients, you know, that they are opponents and they're connected to each other. We don't retain the information about their game. We don't retain their game board. So that's something else that needs to be figured out. Honestly, like, I'm just like, oh my god, it's a lot of work. A lot of work. Join me next time for another sensational episode. If anyone's got any comments or questions about what I've done so far, then, you know, feel free to comment. Please do like and subscribe as well. That means a lot. I recently hit 4, so I'm kind of chuffed about that. Got 4 subscribers, going on towards 100 views now, so I'm on to like 82, I think, which really chuffed about that. So I think it's working out. But yeah, any questions or just any just coding questions in general that I can help with, you know, just throw them at me. And I'll see you guys in the next video, hopefully.